Welcome back to the Dallas Meetup Dime, where we get straight to the value in 10 minutes or less. I'm your host, Carson Gibbons, and today I'm joined by an investor and executive in residence at True Ventures and the managing partner of What VCs Won't Say, Mr. Clarence Bethea.
Carson,
Clarence,
thanks for having me, brother.
How are you,
Appreciate
sir?
it. Man, I'm good. Can't complain.
It's good to finally, you're one of those guys that legend has it in market. I've heard more about you, and I finally got to meet you at Dallas Meetup's pro sports cohort at the Star in Frisco recently. Just got ponied up with my first real voice-to-voice conversation with you and was just blown away by your story and what you're doing and wanted to highlight it today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. The Dallas Meetup event was great. Over 1,400 people there, and it was exciting to see that kind of energy in the room.
It's infectious.
Yes, it is.
Tell us, dive right in because we only have 10 minutes here and
Okay.
you have quite the story. Take us all the way back. You shared some stuff yesterday that I just thought from a point A to Z perspective, the amount of change that you've experienced in your life and that you're now helping others with is just incredible.
Yeah, I think I told you when we spoke, I'm the most untraditional kind of founder VC that you're ever going to meet. I grew up in a place called Decatur, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And everything that you could do wrong as a young man in Atlanta, I did. I was, out in the streets doing all the wrong things, in and out of juvenile, in and out of jail, and just really spent the youth of my life trying to find out who I was. And by the time I got to 25, when I was 25 years old, I was looking at 15 years in prison. And by the grace of God, the judge gave me probation and gave me a second chance at life. A few years later, I had a serendipitous meeting with the CEO of Best Buy that really changed the trajectory of my life. I was working at this gym, and he came in to pay his bill. That was the first time I really talked to him. And a few weeks later, he hit me up and said, "Hey, I want to meet with you one-on-one." And I remember thinking at the time, I didn't know what the CEO meant. I didn't know what Fortune 500 company meant. I was just a kid from the hood. I was just happy to be there. And I ended up going over to his office, and Best Buy has a huge sprawling campus in Minnesota. And we sat down in the lunchroom, and he said to me, the first thing he said was, "I think you're special." And I remember in the moment, I had never had a man at that point in my life ever tell me anything positive in my life. So I started crying. I got snot coming on my nose. It's just like it's an unbelievable moment for me at the time. And he says, "Hey, I've been watching you for all this time, and I would really love to mentor you. You have all of these skills that I can't teach, so you're personable, and people love being around you. You have this energy, but I can teach you business. And if you listen to me, I will help you reach a point in your life and make you wealthier than you've ever could imagine." And so we went on this journey for 8 years where he literally took me everywhere with him all over the country. I was on private jets. I was in room with folks like Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer came out to Minnesota one time to visit with me and sit down with me. And I was in all these rooms really learning like business at an unbelievable level. And that kind of propelled me to start a company that I started in 2015 called Upsy in the insurtech space. We've all been into a big box retailer, and they try to offer you a warranty. And I thought that we could fix that industry. Didn't know anything about CAC LTV or anything like that. And started that business, went on to raise a little bit over $30 million in venture capital, exited that company to a company called Echo in the insurance space, and then joined True Ventures as a EIR and investor at the firm. And so this journey has been just unbelievably crazy for me, and I'm super grateful for it.
First of all, your ability to couch that quickly is incredible. Clearly you're on the speaker circuit. Second of all, the first conversation we had off camera where you were sharing some of this, I didn't realize that his observation window of you was when you were working at the gym.
Yep.
Like, what did he see that you were just helping guests and checking people in or doing otherwise menial activities at a high level that just caught his fancy or what?
Yeah, I learned years later after our relationship was that he was like, every time I was in the gym, you was there. You were sweeping the floor. He's like, your job was sales, but you were sweeping the floor at 7 a.m. in the morning. You was putting balls up at 10 o'clock at night when your CEO wasn't there doing that work. And the way that parents reacted to you when you walked in the gym on the weekends and watched your kids play, he was like, I just couldn't teach you to have that kind of charisma with these folks. He's like, but I could teach you business. And so years later, I learned that he saw that in me. And he was like, how do we help him learn the other side of it so that he have both sides of this?
What was your technical title in the organizational chart of Best Buy as like his right hand or protege or whatever.
I didn't have a title. But
Really?
I could walk into Best Buy and I would say, "Hi, Cindy," and walk past her and walk to his office.
Wow.
Like we had, at that period in my life, people thought that I worked at Best Buy, but it was because I had so much pull with him that I could walk into anywhere.
Oh, interesting. Almost like an executive shadow of sorts.
Yeah, it was literally 8 years of wherever he went, I went. I always tell the story of where I remember one time we went to CES and he was on the main stage. It was probably 10,000 people watching him do a keynote. And I'm sitting in the front row and he said, "Hey, I'm mentoring this young man who, and like we're working through trying to teach him business." And the guy who runs CES was like, "Hey, like, who is he? Is he here?" He's like, "Yeah, he's here today." And I was sitting in the front row. And I remember he was like, "Clarence, stand up." And I stood up in front of all these people. I don't know what's going on. And everybody in the crowd stood up and started clapping. And I remember thinking like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. It's just an amazing point in my life.
Well, it's like a story from a movie because I think I shared with you, like, we're all looking for our Harvey Specter and the
Yes.
person that's been watching us and wants to pluck us out of obscurity or whatever troubled situation we're in. And the next thing you know, we're exiting companies. And,
Right.
But obviously there was a lot of go-to-market, experimenting, product market fit, scaling company, raising venture capital. Will you share more about what Upsy was as you were bringing it to market?
Yeah, so what consumers didn't know was that when you walked into Best Buy and you were buying a warranty for, let's say, a $2,000 laptop, Best Buy would charge you $400 for that warranty. But really, that warranty only costs $35. So the $35 went to an insurance company, the rest went to Best Buy. 2% of their revenue came off of warranties, but 60% of their bottom line profit came from warranties. So it was their whole
Best Buys.
of Best Buys,
Okay.
right?
60% of Best Buy's profit came from warranties.
And so it was like the secret that nobody really knew. And so I said, well, what if we can create a company that made it more affordable, more transparent, and offered better service? And that was our spiel through it all. Was we wanted to delight the customer. We wanted it to feel like they could afford this thing and groceries, right? They didn't have to make a choice. We made it really transparent. So we talked in very layman's terms about what was covered. And when you needed service, we would bend over backward. I remember one time at 10 o'clock at night, I was running to a Walmart to buy something for a customer to send off to them. And it was just like, that was our ethos on that platform. By the time we got to the end of the acquisition, we had over 1 million customers on the platform across the United States. So we had learned a lot going through that.
How long was that journey, point A to Z, from like starting to exit?
Like 12 years.
12 years. And that just happened in 23?
23, yeah.
Okay. Was that a large windfall for you, like, obviously, and being able to deploy capital after the fact?
Here's what I always tell people about exits. Exits never look how they think they think they are, right? And the truth of our exit, we exited, right? That was the truth of the deal. And I always tell people, I don't ever make it look like we made $1 billion or anything like that. Like, we exited the company and people knew how hard it was to get a company sold, especially to a competitor. They probably wouldn't do it. It was much harder to sell the company than it was to start the company.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you've been starting What VCs Won't Say since then, investing with True Ventures. Do you have are you industry agnostic, stage agnostic? Like, tell us more about your sweet spot of investment and who you're looking to help here hyper-locally.
Yeah, so True Ventures is a 20-year-old fund. They were early checks into Peloton, into Fitbit, Do Your Security, HashiCorp, Ring Doorbell. So, ton of experience and really, really smart folks. And I joined more to kind of broaden our horizon outside of San Francisco and New York and get us in front of what I call the other founders. So Dallas founders, Minnesota founders, Atlanta founders. And our ethos is we're generalists. Obviously AI is all the boom right now. So looking at infrastructure in that space. But we really care about investing in the best founders in the world, right? Which is normally the best people in the world. And that's what we're really focused on.
And how are you vetting those people here hyper-locally? Like, tell us more about What VCs Won't Say and kind of that curriculum that you're rolling out in partnership with even local schools.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, for me, I really spent a lot of my time like at True trying to wonder, like, why does this founder from San Francisco get money, but this woman from Atlanta don't get money? Mm-hmm. And it became very clear after, over 10,000 pitches was that he knew the game and she didn't. And this whole thing is a game. And I try to explain to people that if you don't understand the game, it doesn't matter how good your business is. It doesn't matter your ARR. If you don't know how to present yourself and how to get in front of investors in the right way to do it, you will never get money. And so that led me to start What VCs Won't Say. And that's really about creating a place and a platform where founders can understand the nuanced things of raising capital. And I'll give you an example. I tell founders all the time, don't split equity 50-50. And they always ask me, why not? Like me and my partner, we love each other. Me and Carson, we went to school together. Of course we should split 50-50. But really what happens in the back room with investors, they're like, who is the protagonist? Who's in charge? So if it's 50-50, you're more in a co-CEO situation. And investors don't want to invest in that, right? And so I really spent, tons and tons of hours really sitting down and putting factual, practical things in place. All of our videos are 1 to 6 minutes long. It's about 2 hours and 13 minutes of content today. And literally walking you through, here's what VCs are saying in the back room. Here's why you shouldn't do these things. We've been fortunate enough that we just partnered last week with SMU here in their launch program, Bhavna and Josh over there. And, we got another one that we'll announce next week. And we're in process with another 8 to 10 schools right now of onboarding. And so, for us, it's really about how do we educate this next generation of entrepreneurs? And I think the entrepreneurship landscape has changed so much because of ChatGPT. And so people are like, oh, I can just put it in ChatGPT and get the answer. But they can't tell you the nuance and the feel of what it's like to sit with investors. And that's what we're trying to do.
It's all about the prompts that go into ChatGPT and what you're getting out the back end. So I think it's so commendable that somebody that's seen the movie Point A to Z is now kind of redeploying that ladder down to the masses and helping them. The fact that you're infiltrating the scholastic higher ed system that need the pragmatic know-how. I also think it's funny that the guy that didn't know, CAC, LTV, whatever, now you're authoring your own curriculum on all of this stuff. Like you are the founding institution of that.
Right.
So what is your ask of our community? How can we find you? How can we get interested startups in front of you? What does that process look like?
Yeah, so I'm super easy to find, whether it's Instagram, X, you can email me, it's just cb@clarencebethea.com. And, we talked a little bit about this the other day, which was like our community and the opportunity that we have here. I think that there's not a better community that has all the ingredients. And when I say ingredients, I mean founders. We got founders here. We got corporations that can buy companies. We got a crap ton of money here from oil, gas, and real estate and different things. And I think until we get those parties working in the right direction, I always say that great communities are ran by founders, right? Like the founders are the Beyoncés of the community. And until our community understands that and we remove the power from the money and we put the power in the hands of the entrepreneurs, like, I don't think that community can really thrive with it when it's ran by people with the money. And so I think there's so much opportunity here that if we took advantage of it, this could be a top 10 community in the country. We have to start the work of kind of dismantling what has gone on forever, which is, I want 49% of your company for $25K. Like we gotta move away from that, right?
Well, and the first line of defense is having actual robust founders that know their worth and know what they're doing. And I feel like the education and, all the things that you're doing with What VCs Won't Say and even True Ventures is enabling that democratization or leveling of the playing field. Because at least I have the wherewithal going into this conversation to know this is something to look out for.
Right.
This is what I'm actually producing rather than I hope this investor likes me.
Right.
And, we get in TechCrunch.
I talk to thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs a year, and I say to them all the time, founders can build companies without investors, but investors can't invest without founders.
Very true.
Right? And so when you look at that dynamic, founders walk into relationships with investors and they like, I'm so grateful to be here with you. And really that feeling has to be mutual in order for it to work.
That's such a good point. I love that. You're shifting the power back to the founders in a founder-led community here in DFW. And we want to support you in that mission. So we'll continue to do so. Clarence, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you again, man.